baby, how was school today?
Mom, these kids at school kept making fun of me and they kept calling my hair nappy. Why, Mom?
Tootie, look, just read this book and it'll tell you everything you need to know.
There's another N-word we throw around in and out of the black community called nappy. We have taken that word like the other N-word, nigger, and made it a word of adornment. I have heard the word nappy my entire life, which was used to insult, degrade, and hurt someone. This word is a derogatory term that was used in our ancestors to insult them.
Available now.
I love myself.
Same tree, different brand.
I hope you love yourself, because love is only love when you love somebody.
What hair looks like after slavery. Transatlantic slave trade. The transatlantic slave trade by the European changes everything for Central and West Africans. Let's briefly talk about the transatlantic slave trade. The Portuguese and later the English, the French, and the Dutch got involved in enslaving Africans in large parts of West Africa, the Gulf Coast of Guyana, and the Congo River Basin, were significant areas of human exports to the Americas, mostly to sugar plantations in the Caribbean. By the late 17th century, the so-called triangle trade developed. European ships loaded with guns, textiles, tobacco, and manufacturing goods sailed to Africa's slave ports and traded those goods for captives. European slave traders then took those Africans to the New World, where they were sold. With that money, the European purchased staples such as sugar, tobacco, rum, and coffee, then sold for enormous profits back in Europe. The profits was often reinvested in other goods to be traded for captives back in Africa, and so on. If you want more in-depth information on the transatlantic slave trade, I recommend you read Hugh Thomas' book titled The Slave Trade: The Story of the Atlantic Slave Trade 1440 through 1870. This is a thick book, roughly 912 pages, and worth sacrificing some of your time to read. The book is almost the same price as a supersized combo from a fast food restaurant, destroying the image of African hair. Europeans who had traded and communicated with Africans knew the complexity and the significance of black hair. They were often struck by the various hairstyles that they saw within each community. In an effort to dehumanize and break the African spirit, Europeans shaved the heads of enslaved Africans upon arrival to the Americas. This was not merely a random act, but a symbolic removal of African culture. The shaving of the hair represents the removal of any trace of African identity and further acts to dehumanize.
Lafayette, John Mayer and Boca. It's your boy Sean P in the place to be, man. Please like the show, share the show, tell a friend. We're live. I'm doing a part 2. This is a part 2. So if you didn't see part 1, I highly suggest that you see part 1. Please watch part 1. It's instrumental in why I am doing part 2. Real quick, man, like the show, share the show, tell a friend, we're live. I do understand that it is Monday afternoon. Some of you may be at work. Some of you may be too busy to peep in. Maybe someone else is live and more entertaining than I. But I'm going to show you how my brain works. So after I ended the show last night, I was just thinking about it. Why would the professor make the claim, right? What was the motive behind the professor saying that natives were shipped to Africa, right? Well, he didn't say that specifically. He said that they were shipped to Tangier. And then he didn't have any evidence in the article to support such a claim. Well, I'm about to show y'all how my brain works. So my research question for myself was, why would the professor at Brown University say that natives were shipped to this specific location? Nowhere else but to this specific location. And before I do that, I want to make sure, man, everybody like the stream, share the stream, tell a friend, we're getting it cracking. And I do want to say peace to from West Africa, Thurman, what's good? Voss is in the chat building. Brother Lavelle is in the building. I don't know if the bar reloaded is in the building. If so, please share the show on all of your little chats. Never hungry again. What's good, brother? Your name is always funny. I don't know who else is in the chat or anybody paying attention to it, but if you are, please share the show. So back to my brain and how my brain works. So I was just thinking, I was like, what's the motive? So let me go dig, right? Because I want to qualify the claim. I want to find evidence, right? I don't have the study. I can't find the study. What up, Bree? So I wanted to know what was the sole intent of the author. Now, if you have not watched part 1, I highly suggest that you watch part 1, because I'm not going to reiterate any of the things that I said in part 1. I am solely focused on the author of this claim, which is Linford D. Fisher. Okay? He makes the claim right here. During the war that he's referring to was the Phillips Coat. Listen, hold on first. Let me do everybody a favor. I figured it wasn't going to be a lot of people in here today, but if people catch the replay or whatnot, then they'll understand. They'll be like, all right, whatever. But this is the critical part right here, y'all. The Phillips War, okay? So you're talking around the 1600s. I want you to pay close attention to the dates. 1636, it was not until King Philip's War that natives were enslaved in large numbers, Fisher wrote in the study. The 1675 to 1676 war pitted Native American leader King Philip, also known as Metacom, and his allies against the English colonial settlers. So this is the time period. We need to deal with this specifically, because I need y'all to know. The time period. So the time period of the war was between 1675 and 1676. Okay? Think about that timeline. All right? Some even stretch it out to 1678. But that's neither here nor there. You just need to know the timeline, and it's on the screen. 75 to 76. What up, Gab? So that's the time period. Now it says, Gab, watch real close how this work go. During the war, the New England colonies routinely shipped Native Americans as slaves to Barbados, Bermuda, Jamaica, the Azores, Spain, and Tangier in North Africa. That's what Fisher says. But nowhere in his article, right? Because as you see, it's short-lived. Does he provide evidence for his claim? He doesn't provide any evidence for what he said up top. And it's only referred to up top. When he goes down in the thing and talking about all this other stuff, He started talking about Africans and other stuff, but he is not saying anything about these people going to Africa outside of the initial comment that he made. Okay, cool. We get that, right? We get that. So my mind is racing. My mind is thinking, man, what would make him say that? So I went digging. And let me tell y'all what I found out when I went digging. What is so cool about Tangier in Africa? You motherfuckers is finna shake your head. So I pulled up an article on Wiki called the English Tangier. English Tangier. Now I know y'all thinking, what the fuck is that? You said Morocco. Tangier is in Morocco. And it is. So let me just give you a little bit of piece of where I started, and then I'm going to work my way towards something else. All right. English Tangier was the period in Moroccan history in which the city of Tangier was occupied by England as a part of the colonial empire from 1661 to 1684. Stop. Remember what I said about King Philip's War? And I told you that King Philip's War was between 1675 and 1676. Who is running Tangier in Morocco at this particular time? The English. Who is also building colonies over there? What everybody was talking about? The British, everybody else trying to do their thing. So the significance of Africa started ringing. And I'm thinking, why does he think that they shipped motherfucking Native Americans to Africa, more specifically to Tangier? Why did the author of this letter, Professor Fisher, insinuate such a thing but didn't provide evidence for it? Because the evidence that is needed to substantiate it would be the English Tangier was the period in Moroccan history in which the city of Tangier was occupied by England as part of its colonial empire from 1661 to 1684, literally 23 years. Tangier had been, it's not over, y'all. It's not over. Tangier had been under Portuguese control before Charles II of England acquired the city as part of the dowry when he married the Portuguese infanta Catherine. The marriage treaty was an extensive renewal of Anglo-Portuguese alliance. It was opposed by Spain, who was across the street, literally 8 miles, then at war with Portugal, but clandestinely supported by France. The English garrisoned and fortified the city against hostile but disunioned Moroccan forces. The enclave was expensive to defend and fortify and offered neither commercial nor military advantage to England. When Morocco was later united under the Alawites, the cost of maintaining the garrison against Moroccan attack greatly increased, and parliamentary refusal to provide funds for its upkeep, partly because of fears of popery and a Catholic succession under James II, forced Charles to give up possession. In 1684, the English blew up the city's harbor and defensive work that they had constructed and evacuated the city, which was swiftly occupied and annexed by Moroccan forces. So, during this period, fucking Europeans is running this damn place. That would justify why a ship would end up in Tangier. It's under European rule. So then I'm like, okay, all right, cool. It's under European rule, right? It's literally near Spain. Okay, cool. But why would he say such a thing? And then it all started coming to me. Right? It all started coming to me. And then I started substantiating my position on why this is such a thing. Now, nothing else in here is going to justify or say, not justify or say that Native Americans were shipped here. That's not going to be the case. But I did put this in the description of the video just so people could have this information who wanted this information because it's valid, right? So, okay, I'm starting to try to give the professor some type of okay, maybe there's something to what he's saying, but I still didn't find supportive evidence for such his claim. Remember, his claim is that Native Americans were shipped to Tangier. Now, when I go to Tangier and find out that this shit is ruled by the English in this particular period, things that make you go, Professor Fisher is a historian at Brown University. So now I'm like, all right, so I don't have any information that would support, like manifest, shipping documents. I don't have that. Excuse me. And I still don't have the study. So I had to go dig a little bit more. Right? So now, ladies and gentlemen, let me take you to a JSTOR article. Okay? And in this JSTOR article, you should be able to see it on screen, but I'm going to zoom in so it could be legible for the viewers. All right. Now, I don't want to read a lot of this, but I want to give you I want you to understand something. This is called Tangier in the Restoration Empire. It's written by Tristan Steen, Harvard University, and the abstract states and supports this information. This article reintegrates the colonization of Tangier. So I want everyone to know that this is letting you know that Tangier was colonized. Okay? Now, into our understanding of the development of the English Empire in the later half of the 17th century. What up, not a coincidence. So, real quick, remember, Fisher claim is that that Native Americans were shipped to Tangier, North Africa. Okay? That's what he claimed. We just found out that during the period and reign, during the period of the King's Philip War, right, the English were ruling, or, they had shops set up in Tangier. This is a colony of the English. Okay? So it would make sense on how and why a boat would come to Tangier from America. But let's go further. It says, at its acquisition in 1661, Tangier appeared integral to the imperial ambitions of the restored monarchy and promised to carry England's commercial. Listen to me. What were they carrying for the English? England's commercial and maritime empire into the Mediterranean. Pause. My bad, y'all. I'm trying to get as big, make this as big as I can. All right. So now we know, right? We answered another research question. So the English had a commercial and maritime empire set up in Tangier to support its empire in the Mediterranean. So the English had a commercial and maritime business, literally, in Tangier during the era in which we're talking about, which the King Philip's War happens, and they were sending natives to pretty much the old world. Let's just say it like that, where it's respectful. All right. Now, I ain't stopped there. It says this article argues that the particular conceptions of imperial and commercial organization that underlie the occupation of Tangier isolated the city from England's wider empire and contributed to its failure. The creation of a free port, but this is why, y'all, they had ports in Tangier. So creation of Freeport and Crown Colony of Tangier reflected prevalent perceptions of the political economy of trade in the Mediterranean, but added to a wider process whereby ideological debates over the organization of trade and empire helped to create legal and jurisdictional boundaries that differentiated oceanic space. As a free port, Tangier was out of place within an empire increasingly defined by exclusive and restricted trade. It was, however, the ideological significance of Tangier's status as a crown colony that made it unsustainable. Unable to sustain or surrender its sovereignty over Tangier, the crown abandoned the city in the face of Moroccan building. So, although the occupation of Tangier between 1661 and 1684 was one of the most ambitious and intensive overseas projects of the 17th century English state, the ultimate evocation, of the city of the face of preliminary opposition to Moroccan hostility has long caused historians to neglect the colony and its significance for the development of an English empire. Now, it goes on to say, page 2, this teleological perspective reflects the broader absence of the Mediterranean from an imperial historiography preoccupied with the rise of settler colonialism. Guess what it says? Preoccupied with the rise of settler colonialism in North America, and to a lesser extent, the commercial success of the East India Company. So, why would Professor Fisher make the claim that natives were shipped from America to North Africa and don't provide the evidence? It led me to understanding that Tangier was a ported place where they prospered, where they were able to manipulate and control trade and dominate the Mediterranean. And therefore, this stop was a successful stop for them because they could trade in slaves off this coastline and be cool. So, this still doesn't say that Native Americans were shipped to Tangier. But I'm just trying to give the professor the benefit of the doubt because he is the only one that is making this particular argument. And, we got to deal with what we need to deal with. But the justification now is, ladies and gentlemen, you now have a significant answer to what was going on. The answer to why is the professor claiming that people were shipped from America to North Africa, more specifically Tangier. It is because they had colonized this place. They controlled the port in this particular area, and it was rather close to the Mediterranean, as well as, of course, it was very close to the Mediterranean, but also it was within distance of them being able to operate and maneuver the way that they need to operate and maneuver. Then about a line written down the middle of the page and people saying, if you cross this line is this, or you cross this line is that. No, it's not that. This place was ran by controlled by and created by, not created in a sense, but as far as during this period from 1661 to 1684, let me take created out and established, right? That's why they call it the Restoration Empire by England. Portuguese had their shot at it, Spain, all that. So now y'all know that in North Africa, more specifically Tangier in Morocco, the mother freaking English are in control during King Philip's War when they were shipping and replacing Native Americans' places. So it's only right that they would stop in North Africa. But it doesn't say that they stayed in North Africa, that they were sold in North Africa, or that they lived in North Africa. Not this article, not the last article, not the information from yesterday, not the article that Fisher published on Brown University's website. None of that says that. So where the hell are the Indians? What up, Khalil? Where are the Indians? So, Khalil, real quick, I was pondering yesterday. I wouldn't let it down. Why would the professor at Brown University say that Indians were shipped to the Americas? The answer to the question is because the English were ruling the fucking place where these people were sent to. They conducted trade. They ran their maritime business there, and they were able to control the port. So they sent them to a safe spot to be able to handle their business the way that they need to handle their business. But they wasn't doing it in droves. It wasn't ship after ship after ship after ship. We'll have evidence. Everybody will be writing about it. Where's the chroniclers talking about this shit? So there's a misrepresentation of the source by a human being, but there's a misunderstanding also. So we can't perceive that something was transpiring without the evidence. We still don't have the evidence. So I'm bringing everybody to the Restoration Empire to clearly explain what actually transpired. Remember the name East India Company, because at the top of this paragraph, it says, in the years following Tangier's abandonment, the East Indian Company successfully navigated the final throes of Mughal expansion and the early rise of a successor states that made sovereign claims over exposed factories, slaving forts. I'm going to say it again for it. What was it, Sean? What did you just say? The East India Company successfully navigated the final throes of Mughals' expansion and the early rise of successor states that made sovereign claims over exposed factories, slaving forts along the African coast, similarly survived and even thrived despite their vulnerabilities to the powerful polities that fed the trade they served. So this port, he said, you're almost there, Sean. This port is significant because it served the purpose with the fucking slaves. It's a stop. Like I told everybody that it's a stop. That is why you don't see the fucking Native Americans in Tangier, Morocco. Why is it a stop? Because the fucking English are running this shit. Spain got a problem with it. Portugal was cool with it to a degree, but it's allowing the English to rule the Mediterranean. Because if you look at a map where Tangier sits, you gotta come through there to get into the fucking Mediterranean via boat. So in 1661, Charles II's marriage to Catherine de Braganza of Portugal brought with it Tangier, Bombay, and great hopes for a restored monarchy, global's future. For the Portuguese, two poor and vulnerable communities surrounded by enemies were a small price for English support in their war against Spain. For the Earl of Clarendon and his fellow advocates in the marriage alliance between England and Portugal, however, these two colonies situated very usefully for trade, defined the crown's imperial ambitions as potential commercial centers that would allow England to overcome the advantage the Dutch had secured in the Mediterranean and Indian Ocean. Although royal administrations of Bombay proved fleeting, the apparent strategic and commercial potential of a harbor at the Strait of Gibraltar led the English state into one of its most ambitious overseas projects of the 17th century. Over 22 years, Charles II and his ministers invested more in Tangier than in any other English colony, pouring some £2 million into developing and defending a harbor that promised control over the inner sea and the security of the English port, linking the bargaining Atlantic economy into the Iberian and Mediterranean markets. There is your answer, ladies and gentlemen. There's your answer. Why are the fucking Native Americans being sent to Tangier? It ain't to enslave them in fucking Morocco or on an African continent. It is a place where they can port, house their slaves, maintain them there, get them ready for sale in the Mediterranean to European colonies, to other Europeans, and handle their business. This notion where it just stops at surface level research and says, well, someone said that Native Americans were sent to North Africa, and you don't give us anything outside of that, is bullshit. What is the real story of why they were sent there? The fucking English ran Tangier during the era in which the claim is being made that the motherfuckers were sent to Africa. So, I don't want to bore y'all to death with this bullshit, because it's not my job to find the evidence to support a claim made by a professor at the university level. He doesn't provide the evidence. There's no written literature of such. And therefore, we now know that it's not Africans in control of Tangier. It's the English. They're in control because they're running the fucking ports, which just so happen to be a slave port, a drop-off area. Like I said, and it was close to the Mediterranean where they can do their goddamn business. So I did not stop there. I didn't stop here. And I'm giving everybody these sources because you can go back and you can look at the shit for yourself and you can figure a lot of shit out. You don't need me to do it. You can go and qualify what I said or what I did not say. I gave you specific key players like the East Indian Company. I gave you the English. I said Spain. I said Portugal. King Philip's War, the significance of Tangier as a porting place for the English. This is all, look, it's all about trade and controlling shit. That's all it is. So when we disingenuously misrepresent a professor who says that natives were shipped to North Africa, and then we don't have all the evidence of supporting why they were shipped there. Why would they be shipped there? Because motherfucker, they running the shit. Then it goes on. So I didn't stop there. I went a little bit further. Tell me a little bit about Tangier, right? So this is Tangier, the dispute territory that became the literature capital of Mediterranean. They called this the literature capital. Anyone interested in knowing why it was called the literature capital? Is because there was a lot of trade of information and so forth. You got to be smart dealing with these folks. Got to be smart. So I want to take y'all to a place specifically. As you can see, when I scroll down, you seen Spain, right? Look, you seen Spain, right? This is a continent. This dark brown spot, that's Spain. This is the Straits of Gibraltar. This is Africa, more specifically Morocco. Tangier is here. It can control the straits. If you have control over the straits, you piss the Spanish off. It's got ports right here. Right here. You can do business right there. And that little piece of land right here, all of this right here was controlled by the English. So, throughout its long history stretching back to the first millennium BCE, Tangier has been a mosaic of different cultures from throughout the Mediterranean and beyond. Changing hands, listen, changing hands regularly. This is similar. All right, so let's keep it a buck. When you go look at Goree Island, how many times did Goree Island change hands during the slave trade? 1 minute it's the Dutch, the Portuguese. Next thing you know, it's the Spanish. Next thing you know, it's the Dutch. It changed. Listen, Goree Island, a lot of those slave ports change hands often. I ain't got to get into that, Khalil. I'm dealing with the professor. The research question and why I'm doing what I'm doing is strictly professed toward the professor. I'm trying to figure out why the professor said what he said. So now it changes hands regularly. As different empires and rulers claimed and utilized it, it was influenced by these waves of foreigners as much as by its own residents and ancestors. It's a pain. Now, culture, Tangier or Tingis, as it is known at the time, was founded by the Phoenician colonists as a trading post. I'm going to say it one more time. Tangier was found by the Phoenicians and it was a trading post. So why these people pulling up at a trading post? Because there was trade taking place there. So the natives would be shipped there because trade is happening here. It then became the Carthaginian settlement before being conquered by Rome and passing hands to different actors within the empire during Rome's civil unrest. However, its largest cultural influence would come from the Amazigh people of the surrounding lands and later the Arabs. In the medieval times, Tangier was home to several rebellions and upheavals, especially against the Arab rulers who had a history of discriminating against the Tangerians. With the close of the Middle Ages of the Tangier was captured by Portugal. Okay, so after the Arabs, the Portuguese would capture it. And over the preceding centuries, it was transferred between European powers. This procession of conflict is not all that is known for. Throughout these upheavals, Tangier repeatedly emerges as the center of education, trade, and artisanship. 'Ship. 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 Given its favorable, listen to me, given its favorable location on the Atlantic Ocean, Tangier has always been able to rely on trade as its main economic driver. The city's port has been at the heart of its trade. With Tangier, various rulers invested in many upgrades and expansions over the centuries. Indeed, the latest upgrade of the port was in 2007. As colonialism brought on the decline of the trans-Saharan trade routes, it caused Tangier to develop further dependency on the European market. In modern times, alongside shipping, Tangier relies heavily, very heavily, on tourism, with the high-quality leather products sold inside of its old Medina walls and the amenable Mediterranean climate. Tangier has always been and remains to this day a great summer vacation. So, in the early 8th century, the Umayyad Caliphate seized control over Tangier, after which the city stayed under Muslim control for several hundred years, cleverly exploiting its decentralized position between the Fatimid and the Cordoban Caliphates, especially under the Almoravid administration. Tangier experienced a period of growth and stability, maintaining relative autonomy under subsequent dominations until the Portuguese took control in 1471. It then passed the Portuguese to the Spain before the English took their turn, owning the city in 1662 and gave Tangier a charter. This charter made Tangier equal to the other English towns, but it was short-lived. Why was it short-lived? Because in 1684, Morocco took control of the city. So then this goes on in the 1912. I'm not really getting into that. That ain't got nothing to do with it. We now have our answers, right? As to why we see what we see. Now, I did leave this source with y'all as well. There's some additional information here that you actually can read it. But to answer all our questions, that's how I got here. So my mind was unrest. It didn't want to deal with half-cocked shit. I wanted to deal with everything that I needed to deal with and get it going. So I ain't keeping everybody long. I wanted to come in and I wanted to show you what was on my mind, what led me to doing further research, why I did the research, and how I came up with my initial statement to qualify it to now go further. We do now know that during the reign of King Philip's War, the time period in which the author of the article that written by Professor Fisher, he is referring to a slaving port location in North Africa that is being ran at the time by the Europeans. It switched over hands from different European countries, Spain, Portugal. The English had it. So now you know that there were many people involved in guarding off, trading here, running the Mediterranean at this location. All of that happened in Tangier. Now, ask yourself this. Were Native Americans truly shipped to North Africa? Were they truly shipped, or were they shipped to a slaving port in North Africa where they would later go elsewhere? Because we don't see Native Americans in Morocco. Show me Native Americans in Morocco. Because dude also said in a discussion back and forth, he said that they are there and that they've been there since. Not the professor. A dude trying to use the professor's claim in an argument against me, who called me a liar. I don't lie. You sack of shit. And fuck you and your video and whatever you got going on over there. to lie. Your disingenuous, non-researching ass did not even take the time out to try to qualify the statement made by Professor Fisher. Instead, you left it at, I told you people were sent to North Africa. You didn't know where in North Africa. But there was a reason why they were sent to North Africa. The people that sending their ass over there are the motherfuckers who are running the slave ports, who are running the ports and the economical and running up their economic profit right there in the Mediterranean, in the heart of the Mediterranean, doing business as Europeans on an African continent that they are running right now, that they fortified, invested in, and protected. So, get your mind right. Don't ever call me no liar. Don't ever try to come for me. Don't ever say none of that. Nah, Sutek, you late. I know you late. I didn't find it. What I found was the reason why Fisher was saying North Africa, more specific, Tangier. The English, Sutek, I get it short and skinny. The English, during the King Philip War, from 1661 to 1684, the fucking English owned that part of Morocco. They colonized it, took it over. It's a port. Tangier is a porting area. Trade happens there. It's significant. The English is ruling it. It changed hands from the Spanish, the Portuguese, the English ruled it. The English had control of the port. And it had slave forts there in North Africa, Tangier. So like we said, right. So now you know the gist of why the professor says what he says. We don't have the manifest to prove that they shipped these motherfuckers there or anything like that. But if you just look at it the smart way, you had to stop right there because it was before you get to the Mediterranean. You can do business right there. But didn't know Native Americans live on African soil. I ain't going that far. As slaves. There were some slave traders that were Native Americans. But as far as living on that continent, that would kill them. Disease would kill them, man. They were already dying from diseases when they came into contact with Europeans. Imagine what the fuck happens when they come into contact with Africans. The tsetse fly and all of that shit, it's over. That's just knowing history by studying history. So the wild goose chase ended up at proving that this was a fort ran by Europeans. They controlled it. It had slave forts there. They conducted business there as well. And they lost control of it in 1684. By that time, you get into the 17th, 18th century. By that time, if you look back over at the English, they talking about they ain't even trying to enslave Indians no more. So that's a whole mess within itself. A whole mess within itself. So the information is there now. So now we know why the professor pointed in the direction of North Africa. We just justified it all. Well, we qualified it. We qualified it all. And, you know, in the description, I leave the information. You can read it for yourself and you can go back and understand it as it needs to be. And then you can go back and look at that dude, Sutek. If you watched it or whatever they said, then you know he full of shit because he didn't have none of this information. He couldn't even tell us where in North Africa. Yet, you know, he kept saying North Africa, they were shipped. So he was just summarizing some shit that he never took the time to look into and correct. And therefore, we now have it. And he's, you know. Their studies taking place, the majority of natives were actually killed off via brutality before the disease took hold. Yep. They were killed off and disease took over. They came in killing them. Sutek said, dude made a fly for a presentation. Oh, well, he ain't got no evidence to prove his claim. He said that I lied. So what did I lie about? That you sent me this source in a chat a year ago? Okay, you sent me the source in the chat a year ago. So what's the lie? And it said that it said that Native Americans were shipped to Africa. Okay, it said that. Where's the lie? I don't give a fuck about that. They wasn't shipped to Africa. They were shipped to an English colony. Well, not an English colony. Yeah, they were shipped to an English colony in Tangier, Morocco, where slave force was at, where they controlled trade at, where they handled business at. But they didn't stay there. Show me where they at. The Moroccans would have strung them up. You think they were racist toward the people in the South and in Sub-Sahara? They would have strung them up. So he don't know why they were shipped to North Africa. I answered the question why they were shipped to North Africa, and the reason and intent and purpose behind it is because the English were ruling the fucking area. Who wrote a letter saying that they wanted out? Who wanted out of what? Freetown. What are you talking about? Who wrote a letter and wanted out of what? Oh, if you're talking about the Native Americans, they wanted out of the slave trade. Yeah. What? Where the letter at? What letter are you talking about? They ain't wrote no letter. Where the letter at? Where the letter at? They ain't want no. First of all, Tangier had nothing to do with them. The English is running Tangier. That had nothing to do with the Native Americans. The English were controlling ports and forts in Tangier. So tell me, why would a Native American write a letter about Tangier when that's where they're shipping their fucking slaves? To the port. Not all of them. Not all of them. They're shipping them there to do business. They can do business from that location because it's near everything. It's right next. It's the Mediterranean's right there. They can get right into the trade. They can sell the slaves right there and get on about their business. Oh, okay. Nah, but ain't no Native Americans writing no letters. Who they write a letter to? It wasn't to Tangier. Wasn't no Native Americans trading slaves at that point. I mean, at that post. The English is bringing their shit to that post. Ain't no natives writing shit. The motherfuckers were slaves. They getting dropped off right there at this English colony, and the English doing business. So now you finna have me run down some other shit. I'm gonna look it up. You, I need evidence and letters. What you got? I want it. Native Americans wrote letters on Tangier in the 1660s. Ain't none of that shit coming up. Refine the search for me and I'll pull it up. Because ain't nobody writing at that time frame. Later on, they would write to the queen, and I provided that information yesterday. They would write to the queen, you know, and they would even travel to go see the queen. We talked about the dude who was trying to do all of that politicking on behalf of the Native Americans, but he died from smallpox. So I don't want to hear nothing from no half reading, half illiterate, stupid dudes on that side. I ain't talking about you, Free Town. So take what I'm talking about. I put the link in the chat in case anybody want to come challenge any of the information that I've shown or if they need clarity, but this is part 2. So if you ain't watched part 1, you need to watch part 1. And then you need to come back to part 2. Because part 1 is going to put you in position to fully understand what is being said, and then you can marry the 2 shows. And this would conclude overall the 2 shows. And I won't be addressing this shit again. So you can try to assassinate my character all you want, but you're never going to call me a liar. You cocksucking son of a, you know what? Call me no liar. I don't do disingenuous shit. Yeah, brother, you talking about a whole nother time period now. That's what I'm saying. Free time. You talking about, and I already put that letter up. Yeah. That letter O, when you said the name, the Wampanoag, that's later on. Yeah. That letter was for Queen Elizabeth II. They read the letter. They ended up, that dude ended up dying. He ended up dying from smallpox. And years later, they would get the letter to the queen and read her the letter. Queen Elizabeth II. Yeah. And they also gave her a feather red pen and all of that. Yeah, that's on the last show. And that source is in the description of the last show. Yeah, that wasn't during this period right here. Yeah, nah, you good. What you're saying is accurate. It's just in the wrong time period for this particular topic. This topic that we're talking about right now is the specific dates is 1660, 75, and 76. Now you good. Once you said the name, that cleared it all up. There's no confusion now. We just talking about 2 different time periods. Absolutely. Nah, man. I mean, you're right. You wasn't wrong. You're right. You just was in a different era. Sutek has it. I don't think he hears Sutek. I think he came in, spoke, and dipped out. And man, you need to quit texting and driving, man. I mean, we all do it. We all got to stop doing it. So I'm telling you, I be looking at YouTube and shit. So we gotta stop. Yeah, that's a wild claim. He ain't, yeah, he ain't gonna be here for that, bro. This lady said ex-blackly. Oh my goodness, you doing full suit on. But yeah, man, I put the link in the chat again for anyone who has contention and want to challenge the information presented today, or if you got something that you want to add to the bill that you may find useful, please feel free to click on the link and you can add whatever you need to add. No, I don't know anything about it, Freetown. I mean, if you want to hit the link because you're driving and join the panel, and if you want to explain it, I'll give you a few minutes to explain it. Cause I don't know nothing. I don't pay attention, so I don't know. Probably because he didn't know. I don't think he knew, or I don't think he cared. But that's a wild ass claim, though. You gotta call him out on that. Cause he be here, well, you know what I mean? Think he got some solid. All right, no problem. Take your time. Pause. So why he doing that, man? Why he parking his car? You know what I'm saying? Let me drop the link back in the chat. Alan was too busy trying to beat up Black Kitten Supreme. That makes sense. That's usually what happened, man. You let that shit get bro. Yeah, he doing too much. Free time in the building. What's going on, bro? Can't hear you. You on mute.
Hello, you good now?
Yeah,
Yeah. Pretty much he had these three abos on there. One was named Chief Biko, who claimed he didn't have any connection to the African continent, but his name was Chief Biko, based on Steve Biko from South Africa, which was weird already. Which was already weird. And it was a young lady on there too. I can't remember her name, so I won't speak on her. But it was another guy on there named Chief Alligator. Their whole premise and presentation was about the Iroquois Confederacy and how the Confederacy was stolen. The European Confederacy was stolen from them. Like they established it. They couldn't name any of the tribes that actually established and met for the Iroquois Confederacy, but they were claiming that as Aboriginals that it was their Confederacy. So the Confederate flag, Confederate politics were theirs before the Europeans arrived. That was their whole build. It was
Nah,
crazy.
well, we know that's true though.
I mean, they were literally just making it up as they went along, man. That's what it
Yeah.
seemed like. They had a whole presentation. Even the websites and the sources they were using, terrible. I was like, oh man, we can't do this. This is bad, man. But I appreciate y'all platform and others who seek to just debunk this nonsense, man, because it's dangerous. I be telling people, man, this is dangerous, man. Very dangerous, man.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
It was some other stuff, man, but I was listening to while I was at work, man. That was pretty much the big gist of it. I mean, the biggest, you know, faux pas was just, how the Confederacy was stolen. And I'm like, man, you gotta be kidding me, man.
The Confederacy was stolen.
Yeah, that's what they said. The Confederacy was stolen from them. Oh, the other one, Chief Alligator said that Europeans can never be American. America existed before the European arrived.
How when they named the shit?
Thank you. Like how? And I'm sitting there and watching this. I'm like, so what were you calling it as a native? What were you calling it? So you were calling it America? So what language? What Native American language is America? Like it didn't make any sense. So which governing body? He pretty much was saying that the government, the Confederate government was established by them. So I'm like, what government body, which nations, was it the nations even in the Northwest, the Plains Indians, the ones all the way in the West, Southwest, all of y'all came together and established this governing body before the Europeans got here?
For the Europeans, bro. Yeah, that's pseudo. Sound good. Sound good. It sound like what old boy always be saying. They reconstructed the history.
Yeah.
Sound like that's what he's saying.
Well, what I found is it's just a compounding of nonsense, meaning one guy listens to somebody say something, sounds terrible, but they adopt it into their philosophy. They repeat it, then somebody hears. It's almost like a game of telephone for adults, for idiots. You know what I'm saying? Like they hear it, then they compound on the foolishness, and then somebody recreates their own philosophy based on what they're hearing, and then they get on the platform and start saying it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not quite there with Dane Calloway, because it strays away from Dane Calloway's foolishness, but it's still kind of on track with we were the first ones here. You know what I mean? That type of situation.
Yeah, anyone claiming to be the first people here would have to genetically prove that they were the first people here.
But they refuse. Well, some of them are actually trying to kind of taking a slight approach to say, well, we're not saying that Africans weren't here. We're not saying that that there isn't any genetic ties to Africa, but I'm just saying that the majority of us, we are still here. They're still there. The stance they're standing on, that we were still here.
Where the hell are they at? Your population went from millions to 200,000.
So another question I always wanted to ask them is, if let's say the estimate is right of only 300,000 Africans came here, they mixed into the population. So you're saying that there's still no connection. So those 300,000 that were here, they intermarried, but there's still no evidence of them. Not enough for you to claim the African ancestry.
That were here, though. You have to think about it. That's just directly from Africa.
That's what I mean, because they always say only 300,000 came directly from Africa. They forget about the intracontinental that came from the Caribbean. Because the slave masters owned the Dutch one especially. They owned plantations in New York. They owned plantations in the Bahamas and Barbados, and they shipped them across the sea. But they don't ever seem to want to count those individuals at all, and it's a little weird to me, man. Like, it's a little weird to me. It doesn't make any sense, man. But one thing I did want to ask you too. One time I was in the comments, just to veer off, we had a slight disagreement about something. But I remember you said that you made some literature about Islam, and I wanted to read it, but I couldn't. You never told me. I looked up same fruit. I think it's same fruit, different tree. I think it was, and I couldn't find the exact one. Where can I? Yeah, there you go. Same tree, different. And I didn't see that. I didn't see anything about Islam. Where you got a direct link you could post, and I buy right now.
The book is in the bookstore on Same Tree Different Branch.
For real?
Yeah. If you click,
I don't know how I missed it.
If you clicked on the link, bro, all you had to do is scroll down. And it says load more. If you load more, the book is under load more.
I missed it, but either way, thanks for letting me know. I'm gonna cop it as soon as we get off here immediately.
I'll send it. But the link is in the YouTube chat and the link is in the private chat. It should be showing up in the private chat. So if you're on your phone, you should be able to click on private.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I just clicked on it right now.
Yeah.
All right, that's what's up. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right.
I'll sign it and send it to you. I'll get it out there as soon as the purchase comes through.
Yeah, I got you. As soon as you get off here, I'm gonna make the purchase. So I definitely want to check that out. Can't remember exactly what the situation was. It was something. Oh, it was the whole.
I got a little
we won't even
Abadoo.
get involved with it.
Beat up Abadoo in that, man.
What'd you say?
I beat up Abadabadoo.
Oh yeah, but you know what Abba?
Yeah. He made a claim.
He done switched his hustle up, man. He a free man now.
Islam came to Africa peacefully, brother. What are you talking about?
Even I know that. You know what I'm saying? Nah, you know what?
Brother, Islam is peaceful, brother. Islam is the way. Islam is our people, brother. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's not how I went. A lot of people say that, man. A lot of people.
Apologies.
Yeah, especially on the continent. Very much apologists, man. Like, listen, you had Dan Fodio writing letters like, "Oh, what are y'all doing, man? Let my people go." Like, you know, that's just not true, man. We know that. It's just not true. But yeah, man, I was just tapping in.
That's how you breaking up.
Yeah, if you get a chance. Oh my God, I don't know what's going on. I would say if you get a chance, check out Chris Harris' channel. He did a breakdown with them fools too. I don't know what the relationship is between y'all, but you know, like I said, I tend to listen to this type of stuff during the work hours. Man, you know. God, my bad, bro. I don't know.
Nah, you good. You good. I mean, I think he's a Jabari apologist, but he tried to explain it to me during my interview or whatever. Yeah, and he can't move me off of that. He got mad at people that was attacking Jabari's methodology or something. It sounds like
because sometimes I be confused. Sometimes I think he in Garfield's corner. Then sometimes he like, you know, I'm like, oh man, you know what? I ain't get involved. I'm gonna just take the message for what it is and stay out of that stuff. I'm not. I can't get involved in that type of stuff anyway, man.
You don't see me over there, bro.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. But yeah, I'm gonna get on there. I'm gonna buy that book right now, man.
All right, bro. Appreciate it.
All right, look up. All right, appreciate it.
Peace out. Hey, man, anybody else got something they want to kind of get off their chest, man? Now's the time, yo, before I must make my move, go deal with my dogs. Anybody? Link in the chat. Gotta go tend to the puppies. The puppy wuppies. I'm hungry, too. Nobody? Oh, yeah, that's what we were talking about, Sutet. Yeah, I ain't going over there. I'm going over there. It looked like don't nobody else got nothing, man. So I appreciate everybody tapping in. Again, this show is impactful. Short, compact size. You should be able to digest the information. Make sure you check out part 1 from yesterday. Again, man, spills are flying, pseudos are crying.